No. That is, no, the Gran Turismo track limit penalties are not consistent. I'm not just talking about collision penalties. We all know that the Gran Turismo collision penalties are horribly inconsistent. It's a complete lottery whether you get a penalty or not and whether you were at fault or not. But the track limit penalties, no one ever talks about whether they're consistent or not. No one ever talks about whether the game was actually correct to award you a penalty for track limits or not. How many times have you sworn blind that that shouldn't have been a penalty? How many times have you sworn blind that it should have been a penalty and it wasn't a penalty? You're not as crazy as you might think you are. It is not entirely down to you. Yeah, sure, there is going to be the occasions where you got it wrong, where you thought that shouldn't have been a penalty and it was. I completely agree. But I guarantee you, by the end of this video, you will have a very different view on whether you are right or whether the game is right most of the time. Or, no, let's maybe say at least 50% of the time. Not going to go that far to say most of the time, but 50% of the time, I think that's a fair estimation. And you'll see that by the end of this video. And this also puts a very different slant on the use of the grass exploit to reduce the time served by a penalty. So I know this is a very controversial topic, and there's a lot of people that feel that exploits of any kind should not be used. Now, we can have a discussion about exploits in games, be it sim racing or other games. I've had that discussion on Discord a few times. Suffice to say, there's a few angles on it that most people don't take into consideration. And I can guarantee you already, at almost any level, there are some exploits in the game you're actually already using and don't realise you're using. So it's definitely not as black and white as a lot of people would make it out to be. But that's not a topic of conversation for this video, and might not ever be a topic of conversation for a video. Come and hit me up on Discord if you want to have that conversation. But as far as the grass exploit to reduce time served by a penalty is concerned, you might also have a different opinion on that by the end of this video. But enough about that, let's talk about the race for a minute. So I started P2, Manuel Rodriguez started pole but chose to fall back. That put me in the lead. I was really hoping the guys behind would work with me to secure the podium and then fight at the end. You know, I've talked about that so many times in other videos, but that's clearly not what they wanted to do. So Lewis here, this isn't the same Lewis from a previous video. This isn't the Lewis that's usually well inside the top 20. This is a different Lewis. And he clearly wanted to lead. Okay, now unfortunately by this point in the day I had figured out that everyone was just battling, right? No one was really working with anybody, which is not my preference. So I can't be passive. I've got to fight, because otherwise you just get swallowed up. If you try to be the one that doesn't fight, you're just going to get swallowed up. I'll fully concede that Lewis duped me here, that there was room on the inside, and I fully concede that I squeezed him when he went for that move. Why did I do that? Why did I drive that way? Because I was already a little bit wary of Lewis from previous races today. So you can see here that Method Man also wasn't happy with him because he wasn't left room earlier in this exact race. And so I fully concede that Lewis dupes me on the inside, but still missed the apex car by a country mile and pushed me wide. And so, yeah, this isn't the cleanest race you're ever going to see from me, which is why I did this. Because essentially what I'm saying is, look, come on guys, you all know me by now. You all know that I am the man that wants to work with people, that wants to be more passive, intelligent about my driving. But if you're going to flash the hazards there and ask me for a bump draft, which I'm pretty sure that's what he was doing, well, why not bump draft me when I'm in the lead? Like, you want to work with me, but only when you're in the lead. Okay, fine. So what that's going to result in is that I can't be passive. So I got a bump draft there from P3, by the way, which closed me up. But I can't be passive. I get hit here. And what I wasn't sure about is whether Lewis would have thought that that was me being dirty. I don't know if he thought that was me being angry with him. I wasn't exactly pleased with him, I'll be honest with you. But I didn't know if I was about to get sent or punted at this turn. maybe he did see what happened, because he didn't push me here, which I was thankfully pleased about. But if no one's willing to work with me, then I can't afford to be the passive guy who's willing to work with them, because that just results in you getting swallowed. Everyone's going to send it on you, everyone's going to make a move, and as the effective pole sitter after Manuel Rodri dropped back, I'm going to end up in 5th or 6th place within 1 lap. So that's why I'm battling straight from the get-go, because these guys are leaving me no choice to battle. It's not my preferred way to drive. I'd rather work together to secure the podium and then fight over the podium in the last few laps. And I think it's also noteworthy that after the Gran Turismo World Series online qualifiers have ended, the first daily race C that we get isn't as stacked as it has been for the past couple of months. So with the increase in the DR cap and official season, Monday night daily races in Top Split were basically full of Split 1 and Split 2 GTWS drivers, and me being the only guy that's not Split 1, Split 2 material in GTWS. So I was usually fighting 15 super aliens and me. And not to take anything away from these guys you're seeing in this video, they're all fast drivers, you can see that, but they're not normally in the same Monday night split. So I do think it's noteworthy that this is the level at which suddenly people are going for moves on every single corner. Whereas go back and look at my previous videos over the past couple of months where I'm racing against guys that are faster than this, guys that are in Split 1 and Split 2 GTWS, and most of them by some margin are smart enough to not fight on every single corner. So it's two very different ways of driving. Of course you're entirely within your rights to go for a move. It's racing, that's why we're here. Is it the smartest thing to do? No. Does it lead to aggressive elbows out, bump pushing style overtakes? Yes, it absolutely does. And that's what's happening here. So it's by no means the cleanest race you're going to see from my point of view. You know the standard I normally hold myself to, and I just don't see that I have any choice. I just don't see that there's any other way I can drive. I mean, what was that? Why did you move into my path so last minute and force me to bump you into the braking zone? What did you see happening there? What's the goal? What's the intention? And I saw quite a few other questionable actions from this driver watching Rory's stream as well. Rory was not left room. So I'm not going to leave room, because I have to drive the way you drive against me. There's no other choice, otherwise I'm going to get completely swallowed up. It's not my preference to be this aggressive, but I don't have a choice, because that's the nature of Gran Turismo these days, at least outside of the drivers that I'm usually driving against on Monday nights. So I've managed to retain the lead, but have a look behind us and see that Manuel Rodri, who dropped back, I presume he dropped back to last place, in 5 laps has regained second position. Now, Manuel Rodri is an extremely fast driver, right? I don't take anything away from that, but he should not be able to regain second position in 5 laps. He's managed to do that because we've been battling that much. We've been battling so much that he's been able to close up. I'm actually glad he's closed up though, because he's the one driver in this race that I feel I can trust to work with. He's the one driver that would be there on a more normal, at least in recent terms, Monday night top split, and I can trust him. And you can see that there. He got inside me, but he didn't push me wide like the other drivers have been doing. And we went side by side through the hairpin. And again here, he gives room. So he's the one driver I'm happy to work with, and I deliberately conceded the corner there because I don't want to battle him. What I do want to do is work with him. I see an opportunity here that if I can bump draft Manu Rodri, the two of us are fast enough to break away from the guys behind. At least I believe we are. So now we arrive at the point in the video that you've probably been waiting for. You can see I got a penalty. We're going to discuss that penalty actually. But the first thing is, wait, hold up, Luke. You hold yourself to a pretty high standard. How do you justify using this grass exploit? Well, what if I told you that penalty wasn't a penalty? What if I told you that penalty was unfairly awarded and I knew it at the time? And I can tell you why I knew it as well. So we're going to take a look here at Damien's lap from the leaderboard. I believe he was P2 or P3 at the time of setting this lap on the global leaderboard. And you're going to see the track limits here have been exceeded. The track limit is the yellow curb. As long as your tyres are touching the yellow curb, you shouldn't get a penalty. Now, Damien's not at fault for this, right? The game didn't give him a penalty. What's he supposed to do? Self-police? But look at my tyres. And I knew, thanks to the quality Fanatec force feedback, I knew that my tyres were still on that curb when I got this penalty. Incident here again with Lewis. I was trying to move out of his way. I thought he bump drafted me, but I guess he read it differently. Yeah, so we'll just let that one ride. Again, I can concede using the grass exploit probably confused him. Miscommunication, etc. So that's fine, whatever. Let's get back to the point at hand. I knew when I rounded this turn on the previous lap that my right hand tyres did not come off of that curb. How did I know that? How can I be that confident about that? Because I can feel it in the force feedback, particularly on Fanatec. Fanatec is definitely more detailed than Logitech and Thrustmaster when it comes to force feedback in this game. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying there. You can still be blisteringly quick on the other two. But ask any top driver, if you consider me to be a top driver. Ask anyone my level or above. No matter what they use, whether they know whether they're still on that curb or not. You can't get to that level without knowing that kind of detail about your car placement. So, how does that change my opinion of the grass exploit? How does it affect my opinion of the grass exploit? That is categorically an unfair penalty. Categorically, Damien should have received a penalty in his time trial lap. He didn't. That's not his fault. Okay? He's not. What's he meant to do? Self-police and abandon that lap? That's ridiculous. But by the same token, I shouldn't have received a penalty. The curb, the yellow sausage curb, is the track limit. As long as your wheels are still touching the yellow sausage curb, you should not receive a penalty. This is probably desync. This is probably caused by a desynchronization between where you actually are and where the game thinks you actually are. But is this the only corner in the game where this is a problem? No. Of course it's not. If it's doing it at turn 1 RBR, it's doing it on any given corner. Tetra Rouge Le Mans comes to mind as being one of those problem corners where you swear blind you were in and you get a penalty, or vice versa. The thing about turn 1 RBR is that very conveniently placed long sausage curb. At Tetra Rouge, Le Mans is flat curves, so you just assume the game got it right. But at Red Bull, you can feel when you are on the track limit. It is very rare that a game has a raised, elongated sausage curb on the track limit. This move here, by the way, is what I'm talking about with not the cleanest. I definitely had significant overlap. The front of my car was in front of his rear wheel. I'll say that again, the front of my car was in front of his rear wheel, but neither of us wanted to concede the corner. At the time, I thought I had enough claim to it. On watching the replay, I believe I probably should have handed it back, but you never make the perfect decision all the time. And that's why my approach to driving standards is, if I know for a fact in the moment that it was my fault, I will yield the position there in the moment. If I'm unsure and I genuinely at the time thought it was a clean move, I won't. But yeah, on reflection, I think I should have. So turn 1 RBR is the only corner with an elongated sausage curb over the entire length of the track limit. And therefore it's a very rare corner in that you can know for a fact that you were still in track limits. That's how I discovered this a couple of years ago, but even though I've mentioned it to people on Discord over the past couple of years, because I was largely quote unquote a nobody, it understandably doesn't get taken too seriously. Now, because I am a known driver, a reasonably fast driver, and have a coaching reputation associated with Digit, the things I say get taken note of a little bit more. So now I can put it in a video and everyone can take heed of what I'm saying. The track limits are unreliable, extremely inconsistent, and in my personal opinion, I have no conscience issues with using a grass exploit to self-police in that scenario. So if you were paying attention to Digit Stream or Rory streams, you may have noticed that sometimes I used the grass exploit and sometimes I didn't. And what I'm trying to do there, and I'm going to get it wrong, hands up, I'm going to get it wrong, but what I'm trying to do there is use the grass exploit when I'm pretty sure the game got it wrong. So okay, turned out to be a good race after all. Brought home P1, nice race with Manu Rodri there. Red Bull Ring always provides good racing, particularly in Group 4. Not that this was the best racing, but yeah, it does normally provide really good racing, this combination. Definitely one of my favourite combinations. And nice to be able to bring home a win amongst, over the course of the day, was mostly top 5 positions. So yeah, I quite enjoyed this race today. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. As always, any questions, you know where you can get hold of me. Take care, see you later.